Good evening from Melbourne. Behind me, the Melbourne cricket ground, and the Indian team has just wrapped up its practice session. Now remember, the team had travel day before yesterday. They were traveling from Adelaide to Melbourne, so they didn't practice on that day. Yesterday was a rest day for the Indian team. Today was optional practice, and in the optional practice, you had a full-fledged Indian team come out and practice. So, majority of players from the first 11 as well as from the 15 were out to practice today. When I talk about who were the notable absentees, those players that didn't come, the two fast bowlers in you had Mohammad Shami. Hi, how are you? I'm fine, thanks. I'm fine,
I'm a
thanks.
big fan of yours, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
Can I
Thank
take a
you.
picture
Yeah, sure.
with you?
I'm live. If you don't mind, I'll
Oh,
just finish it. Yeah,
hi.
and then I will
Yeah, sure.
surely do that. Right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank you.
so much,
Thank
sir.
you. Hi,
Thank
nice
you.
to meet you. I'm here only. Just give me 2 minutes.
We are family of sports.
Yes, and I'm just give me 2 minutes.
No.
Okay. So yeah, the latest update is that the two fast bowlers in Arshdeep Singh, Mohammad Shami, they were not there at practice. Everyone else was there practicing hard. You had the likes of Hardik Pandya, Virat Kohli, Rohit Sharma, KL Rahul. In fact, just to point out, I think KL Rahul had a very long extended practice session. He practiced once before, and then once everyone had their batting chance, he came back to practice again. The net bowlers were also there, and Shardul Thakur and Mohammad Siraj, they were bowling. Uh, Today was a special day, it's Virat Kohli's birthday, so a lot of fans. Melbourne is one of those places where you can actually see the practice session happening down below. So a lot of fans did turn up for watching the practice session, and they would sing in chorus. Everyone singing "Happy Birthday to you, Virat." They did it multiple times. All the fans that had gathered, so that was happening. Apart from that, what you saw was. There was every time he would connect with the ball whilst he was batting, the sound of that shot, if that was really nice, then fans would start cheering and appreciating Virat Kohli's shots. So that is what they were up to, all the people that had come up to watch. And so that's one rare treat that you get in Melbourne, where fans actually get to see their favorite players practice from up close. Um, Virat spent a lot of time practicing against the throwdown specialists. So, there were a lot of throwdown specialists that were bowling, and he was concentrating on playing against them. The one throwdown expert that they have from Sri Lanka, if you know, that the left hand throwdown expert, while he was throwing down the ball, Virat did get beaten a few times, but that left-handed throwdown was proving to be difficult for a lot of people to handle. Even later, when I saw a lot of batsmen playing, it wasn't easy. So the team spent a lot of time practicing. In fact, just to give you an update in terms of what the team's practices, they are going to have another practice session very shortly, which is going to be in the evening, which is when they're going to be concentrating on their fielding drill. So I think that's a special practice session that the Indian team has thought of doing, which is later in the day, in the evening. So right now they did the batting and bowling in the nets. Right behind that is where the practice session is, the practice nets. And then they're going to come back in the evening, and a few players are going to come back in the evening, and then they're going to be doing the fielding drills, which are going to be indoors under the lights. So I think the focus on that is clearly that you've seen sometime Indian fielding has let the team down. Though it was great against Bangladesh, there were a few fielding moments that turned the game around, but overall, if you saw versus South Africa, there were a few missed chances. So to keep that in mind, to keep the light in mind, to keep the high towers that they have in mind, all of that in mind, the Indian team is going to have a practice session later, a 2-hour practice session after a 3-hour net session later in the evening. So that is what the team is up to. I know, okay, Naman is asking a question, Arvind is also asking a question. We have Chetan Joshi from San Francisco playing. You mean Rishabh Pant or DK, considering DK acts like a cat on a hot tin roof, even and RP on a given day can take down any opposition. Okay, so few of you have asked me question about the playing 11, and then there are a few who have asked about Dinesh Karthik and Rishabh Pant. Okay, let me try and answer that question. I think the playing 11 is going to be pretty much the same for the Indian team. that you saw in the games till now, as in the last game. They made changes against South Africa, but the last game playing 11 that you saw, 6 bowlers, I think the Indian team is going to go with that. And I think the 6 bowling option has helped the Indian team. So every time they've gone with 5 bowling option, and that's something that I maintained. I think they've had to pay the price. So 6 bowling option they'll go in where Akshar Patel is. One change that they could even consider or you can think about, probably at best they could look at UZ Chahal coming in for Ravichandran Ashwin. Now that is something that the team might be thinking, though Ashwin came to the press conference today. Just some of the things that he said in the press conference, two very important things that he talks about. One is, of course, how the margins in T20 cricket are so small that you can't take any team lightly. I don't think that was just lip service or he was just trying to say the most obvious thing. I think he meant it. So what he tried to say is that if you've seen most T20 games, you have to be ruthless, you have to be clinical, that's the word he used. You have to be clinical, meanings against any team that you play, you've got to be at your best. One minor slip up and then you have a situation where you could end up on the losing side. For India, it is a must-win encounter, so all the more clinical they have to be. And so the Indian team made it clear when Ashwin came that they are going to be clinical against Zimbabwe. The second thing that he says, the margin in T20Is tends to reduce between teams. And he said, most analysts are also behind the game when they're trying to analyze it because things change so fast in T20 cricket. And that's why it makes any team dangerous. So the Indian team is not going to take Zimbabwe lightly. Also considering that they recently beat Bangladesh in an ODI series, and Bangladesh shot themselves in the foot, or they could have beaten India with the kind of start that they had. So the team is mindful, the Indian team is mindful of that. A few questions about rain. Okay, so the interesting bit about Melbourne in this tournament has been that you've hardly got any games. The last completed 40 over match at the MCG at this T20 World Cup was the India-Pakistan game. After that, there has not been one single full 40 over match. The only other match where you saw a result was that England-Ireland game. That too was a shortened game on Duckworth Lewis. Ireland won. After that, all games that have happened were all washed out, including that big game, Australia-England, that was supposed to be happening, washed out. So it's been 9 days or so, that game that was supposed to happen, Australia-England, 9 days ago. And since then, they've had a gap. And before that, the last game where you got a result was 11 days ago. So the gap has been 9 days between any games being played. That's big. Last game where you got a result is 11 day, and you have to go even further. 23rd is where the India game happened. So I think it's about close to 14 days or so, 2 weeks since a last 40 over game happened here in MCG. The weather hasn't been kind, but the good news is I was just taking a look at the weather forecast. You see the nice sun is out right now. It's clear skies. We've been here 2 days now. Good weather. So the rain has gone away at the moment. It's expected to be a good day for cricket tomorrow as well. So again, India is going to be lucky with the weather in that front, where you will have a full 40 over game for India versus Zimbabwe. So that's the bit about weather. Mayank, you are absolutely right. By Muzarbani, 6 feet 8 inches. Nagavra also 6 feet. Brad Evans 6 feet 2. Yes, the tall fast bowlers. And I think personally that had India been playing Zimbabwe in Sydney or Adelaide, batting friendly conditions, then it would have been even a bigger margin between the two teams. To beat India there would have been tough. But if you're going to be playing in bowler friendly conditions like Melbourne and like Perth, that's where the gap kind of reduces, because those are the places where teams can upset. You saw Zimbabwe upset Pakistan in a bowler friendly environment. And this Melbourne is a bowler friendly environment. That is why India has to be slightly more careful against Zimbabwe, because they have the pacers who can get the purchase. If India bat well, they get a par total or par plus total, then it will be tough to beat India. Only way Zimbabwe can beat India is if India's batting doesn't fire that day. So that is something that the Indian team needs to be wary of. I think just play calculated cricket is what India would look at. Just try and aim at par total, not a very big total, because if you get par, rare occasions Zimbabwe will chase. I know Bangladesh was on the verge of chasing, but that was a once in a lifetime kind of innings that Leighton Das had played. That's not going to happen very often. So I think India, they get par total, they should be good enough to win the game. 11, I doubt there will be any change. UZ Chahal for Ashwin, they could have been tempted, but I doubt even that is going to happen. So all in all, you will have a situation where India is going to be playing the same 11 that played the last game. Uh, Gokul, interesting question. Australia or England, which team will be threatening against India in semis? Well, clearly Australia. But Australia, the only way they can make it is if the game between England and Sri Lanka is either washed out or England end up on the losing side. Washout is not going to happen. Sydney weather is clear, so the game is going to happen. If Sri Lanka beat England, only then Australia come. Otherwise, England come. Between the two teams, if I was the Indian team, I wouldn't want to face Australia in a knockout game at home. Yes, they've not been in great form, Australia, right now, but knockout game at home, they'll be very dangerous. I doubt any team would want to face them. England, on the other hand, I know they're a good team, but England batting on a given day can collapse also. England bowling on a given day can leak a lot of runs also. So they can still be a bit susceptible. But overall, if one team you had to pick between England and Australia, India would much rather play England than Australia, and which seems to be the most likely scenario. India, England in Adelaide. Unless, as I said, Sri Lanka beat England today, then it'll be India, Australia in Sydney. Chetan says, I think England might overpower India since Adelaide is batting paradise. Only thing that can save us, Kohli's record at Adelaide. What's your take? Chetan, I agree. I think batting friendly conditions will favour England because that's their strength. And Adelaide is a batting friendly, uh, you know, pitch. But then India also, as you mentioned, has a great record there. You can't do much, but you much rather face England in Adelaide than Australia and Sydney. My take. I was here, 2015 50 over World Cup. We know what happened. You wouldn't want to do that. But first, you got to beat Zimbabwe, one step at a time. Sikandar Raza factor is going to be crucial. He's been in good form, but I think the Indian batting is quite capable of handling him. I think. So a lot of people asking about Pant replacing DK. I don't see that happening right now. It's not going to happen. Pant was out practicing today. So was Dinesh Karthik. I know Dinesh hasn't had a great World Cup so far, but I don't think the Indian team is going to risk that now. Also, see the position. You will need someone to bat at 6. Is Pant the guy to bat at 6? Not quite. He's a top order batsman. So if you take DK out, who bats at 6? Will Hardik bat there? That's too low down for him. Will Sky bat there? Too low down for him. Pant bat there, too low down for him. So you got to also look at the balance of the side. At the moment, it seems unlikely. I doubt that Pant is coming in. Maybe, I know that Dinesh Karthik is under pressure. Maybe another failure here. Maybe, I don't know, semis, you take a bit of a risk and bring in Pant. I don't know how you look at the batting order. It's not happening now, though. Prashant is saying, any chance of South Africa losing to Netherlands, then both Bangla and Pak has a chance. Yes, Prashant, what you're saying is right, but no. Short answer to your question, no. I doubt Netherlands has that firepower to beat South Africa. No, that's not happening. That's a mighty upset, which I see only in 5 or 2% chance of that happening. Sri Lanka can beat England, but not anything else. So that's that at the moment. Thanks so much for all of you joining in. If you've joined us late, Arun is saying, is there any way India faces New Zealand in the semis? No, because if India lose, they're out. Unless the game is washed out, then I might have to look at that. That also seems unlikely. If that game is washed out and South Africa win, then South Africa tops and then India can. But then will India be under threat in the points table from Pakistan? No. No, they won't. So yeah, that could be a scenario, I think, if my math is correct. Sorry, because I don't have the points table in front of me. Vignesh, I've answered that question. If India top the group, where will the semis be? It'll be in Adelaide. Unless Australia qualify. And then even if India have topped the group, then India has to play in Sydney. But if today England win against Sri Lanka, then India are playing in Adelaide. Mridul, your question is related to that. First semi-final is in Sydney, next is in Adelaide. Depending where India plays, I just told you, 90% India is playing in Adelaide. Unless Sri Lanka beat England today, then India will play in Sydney. Okay, thanks for that. If you've joined me late, just go back for all the updates from the practice session at the MCG. I'll see you later in the evening with Sunny Gavaskar, where we'll build up to the game. So for the moment, Nikhil Nas signing off from the Melbourne cricket ground.